This podcast is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Out of the Ashes presents Missing Dad.
I might have ended up on the wrong side of the tracks if Pops wouldn't have pulled me back and said, yo.
Each episode is a thought-provoking interview with people across all walks of life to see how they were affected by missing key pieces in their relationship with their
I
dad.
told him as a youngster, he'll be the greatest man alive.
And now your hosts, Coley Harris and Amar Melton.
Right, welcome to our very first episode of Missing Dad. I'm excited to be doing this. I'll be your host, Coley Harris.
And I'm the co-host, Amar Melton.
And we're privileged and honored to have here today a good friend of mine, a good friend of ours, Dr. Yasser Payne. And Dr. Payne, you just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit.
What's good, everybody? First and foremost, I just want to say it is a pleasure, a privilege, and an honor to be a part of your inaugural episode for this program, for this podcast, man. Thank y'all for having me in mind. In short, I would say, I'm on faculty. I'm a professor at the University of Delaware in the Department of Sociology and Criminal Justice, also in the Department of Africana Studies. I have a PhD in social psychology. I am a trained social psychologist, more precisely an African-centered social psychologist. And I'm very interested in the lived experiences of street-identified Black men and women.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about where you come from. I know you come to us via Harlem, New York.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, the Harlem world.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. Keep in mind, I've never lived any place else besides where I grew up at. Okay. So Delaware is the only place, and I needed that. I needed so I'm gonna get into where I grew up at, but I needed that shift from where I grew up at. Delaware has been a blessing. It's also helped me to see and better understand where I come from, and as a way to better recognize myself. But in any event, I am born in Flower Hospital. No longer exists. But a lot of people in Harlem were born in Flower Hospital, 1975, March 16th. I am 43 years old. It's interesting number. But growing up there, man, see a little bit of everything. Right. Let me say that. It's an urban city, big urban city. But you see, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I don't want to create the wrong impression. I think Harlem taught me a lot. It taught me definitely about my people. It taught me about Black pride. It taught me about all those things before I even realized, right? You have to understand, I was socialized kind of in this Black power movement, Black revolutionary kind of context, right? So I come from, I have two parents and my father, my whole family, to be honest with you, meaning my immediate family, my three older brothers and my two parents, definitely had one foot in the streets and one foot into, legal activities, but businesses, but also, making real contributions to the socio-political causes in places like Harlem, right? So it's a kind of schizophrenic background. I think it even plays, it's always played, that schizophrenia, if you will, has always played itself out even in my identity, right? Meaning, even in college, I always had one foot, right? And both worlds.
I was going to ask you how does that look with everybody, like really important people around you, being involved in you seeing the money, right?
Yes, yeah.
So you're seeing the money, and if everybody else is kind of doing this is like your household, right?
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, how did that kind of shape you?
I had an interesting, so you have to understand, I'm the youngest of four. My father's name in particular, James Payne, is buzzing in Harlem when I'm a little kid, right? When I'm coming into my consciousness. We're doing well. We own these big stores on 125th Street and 7th Avenue, which is prime real estate in Harlem. That's like the main epicenter of Harlem. Then now, like 125th is legs, like, oh my God. And my father owned like real estate. Like, and these were elegant stores, boutiques. These were where, women can come in and buy the finest clothes, right? Not only in Harlem, but also Manhattan. Particularly Payne's beauty wear is what it was called. Then we had Payne's lingerie as well. And then my father, right, bought another store and gave that to my oldest brother to run, which was the arcade. And at that time, now as I know PS4 and all, but then it was these big arcades, Pac-Man, Miss Pac, and they were like, it was the thing to be at.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And at that time, I remember as a kid, right, we had these big, tall glass cases, right, and we would sell out of them, to be honest with you, crack cocaine pipes. It was legal at that time, right? And they were and it was creative, expensive, kind of like bongs are now, right? But these aren't cheap, you know what I mean? And really it's falling out of the freebasing era, which is preceding and overlapping with the crack cocaine era. So the pipes, right, are just, you know, it's all cocaine, but it's different kinds of cocaine. But, right, so there's a whole fashion around it. So you have to understand, my image, you know, streets of Harlem, you got these big stores, you got this arcade. In the arcade, all the rappers and R&B singers will come through, particularly in Harlem. So people at that time, like Teddy Riley, you know, who's from St. Nick Projects, which is a block or two from the store, he would come through. And at that time, they had a Rex and Effect, which is a popular rap group. A Plus was the lead rapper. They would come in and they would, you have to understand, like, they're coming in this spot, Keith Sweat and all of them. And they come in the spot and chill out. Yeah. It's no like, ooh, I mean, it's ooh, but it's really my brothers in them or the hustlers. Yeah. It's a weird dynamic. They have really more social capital and have more attention around them. Right. So me growing up, I'm seeing all of that. You know, had big speakers outside, a lot of breakdancing in front of the arcade store. You know, it was like a party, man. We had pit bulls in the basement, swinging pit bulls outside. Wow. You have to understand, New Edition, Michael Jackson, and groups like that, Run DMC though, right? You have to understand, the streets is playing is banging that out the speakers. Right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like they are hot in the streets though. You know what I'm saying? Amongst the killers, like, you know what I mean, New Edition and all of them, it's like, oh, you know, and Run DMC. I remember when Run is saying, what is he saying in my Adidas? Walking on 25th Street. Like, I remember listening to that song on 125th Street. Right. Oh, man. Right. You understand what I'm saying? That's like, rich. And they were like Jay-Z back then. The idea that Run DMC could be, could go cold or be not irrelevant. I think they're still part of it. But, you know what I mean? They're not, obviously, you know what I mean? They're not the main kind of attraction in hip-hop music today. Yeah. Right? So you have to understand, growing up at that time, and I was young. I was born in 75, 85. I'm 10 years old. Right? But the idea that Run DMC can one day not be it, we don't have no frame of reference. It's kind of like in our mind, Jay-Z now will never, unless he decides to go away. Right. And there's always been a rapper around where we felt like that.
So let me ask you something, Yas. So when you talked about your father and, you know, and the stores that he had, and passing off stores to your older brother, and the legacy. And how was it growing up, like with your father being like having this significant stature in Harlem like that? How was that? How did that impact you as a human being? How did it impact your trajectory, your career choices, decisions that you made?
A lot. My father was my hero. He was my king. I wanted to be like him in so many different ways. I was just you know, I had a very complicated relationship with him too. I don't mean to suggest that I didn't. We've been on both sides of the line. Particularly as I began to get older and began to understand things a little bit more deeply. And I love my father to death. I talk to him like every day. And, you know, but there was a time. And you have to understand, like, you know, and I'm going to answer your question more directly. But you have to understand, for me to go there, I've heard sons and all that with the father, but for Yasser to go there with his father, someone that I cherish. And I'm like, my whole thing with loyalty and all of that. And so, you know, it had to be real. Then my father is who he is. So you don't make no veiled threats. No. They ain't like that. You know, you don't have that frame of understanding to work with you in that way. Yeah. but in any event, growing up, I adored my father. I also was afraid of my father. He's a very violent man. Very violent. I've never met anyone in my life more violent than my father. That was his core identity. Now, with that said, he wasn't like sociopathic or out of control. For instance, he didn't even believe in hitting kids as a form of punishment. Now, as violent as he was, he would, that's not, we don't do that. I did get hit by him once or twice though. But that was, my mom is the one that would kind of like almost borderline physically abuse you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But my father, so he was violent, but it was still within a code, so to speak. But nonetheless, what I mean by that though, violence is like, so it's nothing for me to, and I wouldn't realize how damaging this would be until when I got older, but it was nothing for me to see my father, like, and his people that work for him or whatever, like beat people half to death. I mean, half the time I thought they were dead as viciously as they would beat them.
Wow.
Right.
And growing up, seeing as a child, I don't even know how many times that happened. That's how many times that happened.
Right.
You know, or I never see my father, you know, that, you know, I don't think anyone died. I never see my father like kill someone. I don't want to create that impression. You know, I'm pretty sure he did, but again, I don't know that side of him. But people, you know, respected him.
Right.
He definitely was a money earner. So, you know, I don't think he always did the best. Maybe with a lot of guys in the streets who did the best they could have done with the legal and illegal money. I mean, just be lots of cash around. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, don't you want to put that up? You know, invest, you know. My father has an 8th grade education. Everyone's ripping and running. Everyone's grinding. Money is here. Money is not. Money, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really unstable. And I don't really have a frame of reference for all that. But growing up, though, that was Pops. We did have a certain scene. I was afraid of him, like most people were, and I did adore him and respect him. He was schizophrenic in the sense of, yes, he gave so much back to the community. Like, I haven't, like, besides maybe my brother Calvin, and this is where Calvin gets it from. Like, my family is known for, like, giving back to the community, whatever the reason is, guilt, whatever, right. You know. And I mean, thousands of dollars are spent each year. On a bad year, good year, just every Christmas, New Year's Eve, Thanksgiving, free turkey, liquor. I mean, without fail. Right. The line around the corner.
Wow.
Like, I'm like, oh, okay. You know, and then many Christmases where I never got no gifts. Many birthdays where we got no gifts. And then many times where we were doing bad. You know, I think it was always that seesaw kind of a situation.
Right.
Growing up, though, I will say this, particularly my early days, things were good. We had like health insurance. We had like private doctors, you know, like private white doctors, Jewish lawyers. I mean, it was like that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And then I would say maybe, don't give me the line, 5th, 6th grade, 7th, maybe definitely by middle school, but I would say my late elementary school years, at some point, shit changed.
Right.
And the thing is, so they don't, you know, I wasn't prepared for that kind of change. And they weren't prepared to talk with their children about that kind of change because
right.
Everyone is in the grind.
Right.
The way I really recognized the change, besides seeing all the difference in our home, because we would end up buying a home in a white upper middle class neighborhood, from Harlem to Inglewood, New Jersey, right? I would see the house decline. And we're in this white neighborhood. We got rats and roaches now. Light bills is going, you know, I don't have enough to pay for electric. Or my water ran out. I remember one time as a kid seeing that. Or we were on bankruptcy at least 2 times that I was aware of. And or about to get kicked out of the house because, you know, I guess the bill, whatever, wasn't paid.
Right.
And this is in that kind of neighborhood, right? Because we were able to move there, but when the finances got interrupted, we weren't able to maintain it. And they don't really know, meaning my parents, my father's on his own by the time he's 8th grade, my mom's was on his own by the time she's 16 years old. They just know how to get money in the hood. You know what I mean? And they got, you know, Italian mafia at that time, you know, and so things were good. You know what I'm saying? But now you got to live in this world, and you live in that world, shit, everything costs. It's everything. I don't know, whatever. You can make whatever it is you say you're making, but if you live in over there, you know what I mean, the costs are adjusted. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So things were different, and then kids started making fun of me in school. And that's how I knew. The girls were making fun of me. I was getting made, and then, you know, and then I couldn't deal with all of that. I didn't know how to deal with all of that. And
how did you deal with it?
So at first, I had to make sense out of it. I always did well in school, right? Which means I always was in AP class. And one of the messages that they tell you in AP class and all that is this: if you don't want to be with the other kids, you don't want to end up in prison, and if you mess up here, if you fight, if you do whatever, you're gonna get a record and you're not gonna go to college. So we hit in the head with that.
Right.
And it is true to some extent, right? But then you caught in the bind, though, because shit, you know what I mean? You got motherfuckers making fun of you and doing X, Y, and Z and mistreating you. And I always went to one of them public schools that wasn't, you know, predominantly black and brown, and there was a lot of violence in the schools.
Right.
You know what I mean? So my brothers and them was always fighting, doing one thing or the other, gambling in the schools. Like my brothers would have $100 bets out in 10th grade. Dice all over the place. Everyone's. I mean, it was like that.
But it was like that though because of the error. What year are we looking at?
So I graduated in '93. So my brother Cal and all of them, they were and Bashir, they're the two older ones. They probably were in the '80s. They were in that high school. And I remember my brother Bashir, who was struggling with a crack cocaine addiction. Bashir telling me his friends, they would at that time they were getting high on cocaine in high school.
Right.
It wasn't seen as a bad thing though, in the way that we would think about it now. Even though it was getting high and it was wilding out and all this and the third, they weren't doing crack. I don't mean to suggest that at that time, but they were really getting high.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so like I said, it's a schizophrenic experience. I eventually get to a point I'm trying to figure out because I got to get out. School is my way out of all of this.
Right.
I have to understand this. My family has positively reinforced school for. I never. I'm not saying didn't have nobody else. I'm saying for me, there never was a day where anyone in school or anyone in my family made me feel bad for doing good in school. In fact, I was always applauded by people in school, meaning my friends or whomever, and family members. Do well in school. I never was like acting white as. I don't even know. I never experienced that. I got my PhD. My brothers and them brought me to Harlem, put the diploma in the air, and I got a round of applause from the gangsters.
That's
and
dope,
and residents.
Right.
But to be honest with y'all, and I know I talk a lot, so you got to slow me down sometimes. But to be honest with y'all, when I was in school, I got to a point things had gotten bad, and people started making fun of me, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And my brothers and them were fighting like crazy, especially Ella. They always got it in. And I was trying to figure my way out, and I don't even mean to create a wrong impression or whatever, but eventually I was just like, I was so angry. I became a really, really angry person. You know what I mean?
Let me jump in right there. So
you get real angry.
You getting older, right? You in school. You mentioned the girls, and everybody just making fun of you, and you just mentioned being angry. How did that change or shape the way that you started to view your pops, who early on in your life was bringing money and used to having cash around, and then now things are starting to change, and you getting older as well. How did that change your view of your dad?
No, I mean, you have to understand, even as a child, I was not difficult at all. I understood. I could put two and two together. I didn't get mad when I get Christmas gifts or when the money was there or not there. I understood. And I associated earlier money with a more stable family. Like I remember as a child putting that together. When money was around, less arguments. When money wasn't around, I mean, I had domestic violence. It was all kinds of like really messed up things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That I will learn later that traumatized me. You have to understand, like, I share this now, even with audiences, like live audiences, because I want people to understand, the things that it's hard for me to talk about, but there are things that I will, like I peed in the bed until I was about 9 years old, maybe somewhere between 7 and 9. Let's do that. Well, one of my brothers has a really severe bad stuttering problem, right? And it's not until I'm a psychologist, right? And not until I get older and I start learning, particularly in grad school, that those are clear signs of extreme trauma. Okay. I just thought that, I was trying to hide. I was embarrassed. I'm supposed to be, tough or whatever. And then, that's not what little boys do, particularly at my age. And then it's not until I get older that I learned that now I got adults look at, like what happened to you. I also had to like Woofy's grandson, right? He has eczema, right? Mm-hmm. And we're doing this health project now, this new research project, and one of the things I'm thinking about is eczema, right? As a health, because a lot of times we just don't. My eczema issues is probably 13 times worse than Woofy's grandson, right? Jihad, and and me and Jihad is cool. And I'm looking at his hands and stuff like that. So I sat Woofy down and I said to him, listen, me and Ray. I gave him this long, elaborate story, right? Because I want Woofy to hear me. Because I'm identifying with the eczema in a certain kind of way. And I said, Wolf, I used to watch this movie. I watched this movie called Fences, right, by Denzel Washington, right? And it's really intense. It reminds me a lot of my family. It's kind of like Precious that hit me in the same way Precious did, right? It's hard for me to watch it to turn the movie off. I'm identifying with too much. And said, fences really messed me up because, right, it really, really, really got underneath my skin and reminded me of a bunch of things. And I started crying, Wolf. And you know, I'm sitting there with my fiance, Tara, and all of a sudden, I just start breaking out in real time. Right?
Really?
Yeah, real time. Like, I mean, and I'm 13 times worse than Jihad. Full body. Right? Tara just got a tooth pulled. So she had like those pills or whatever, you know, those opioids or whatever you call them. She gave me one of them. Right? Them things work. You know what I mean? They calm me down.
Yeah.
Right? So I tried to express to Wolfie, I said, so I learned about my eczema later. I have a dermatologist, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I was a kid, I would break out really bad, look like an alien, couldn't go back to school for maybe a month, right? The only thing that was good about it was giving me new skin. Like, I would look like I was born again or something. But I would have these breakouts maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And it's difficult to do something like that and go to school and then, you know, right? And nobody knew what was going on. And at this time, I didn't have no health insurance, right? So I'm going to the clinic now. I don't know if y'all been to the clinic in Harlem, but every inner city has a clinic, right? So you go, there's people who don't have insurance, and you go there and you sit, and I'm looking crazy, dripping pus, everything's all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Swollen, eye this way, that way, you know, and then it may still take an hour in the clinic to get someone to see you, and it's usually a doctor from some other country, and every time you come back, you see another doctor. That's what it means to go to a hospital in the hood. Or what it meant for me and my family to go in Harlem. I got my tooth pulled out as a kid. I mean, cavities drilled in as a kid. 4 of them, right? That reveals a lot. Probably like 12, 13 years old. And the damn clinic ran out of Novocaine.
Huh.
I just knew people didn't like dentists. All my parents, my teeth, all they teeth, they friends' teeth, everyone get their teeth pulled out. My father snag a tooth, is what we would say. You know what I'm saying? Back then. You know what I'm saying? And so they drilled all 4 of my teeth, no Novocaine, when I was like 13, something like that. And I didn't know that was bad. I knew this shit hurt. Yeah. But I see now why they hate the dentist. But that's me. Right. That's the kind of healthcare that was provided us. And I don't know I'm traumatized right until later.
Yeah.
So back to the eczema. So I said, Wolf, man, listen, man. I said, I need you to understand this right here. I said, so now I got a dermatologist. I'm older. I can deal with this issue. And I'm put on kind of steroid cocktails to deal with my eczema. Right. And I said to Wolf, I said, I didn't learn that, you know, that my eczema actually comes from my extreme trauma. Not because of the air, which technically okay, the air and the pollen and right. And Ray Avery Jones sat down because her son or daughter, same issue. Listen, Wolfie, it's the air and all of that, but it's not the air and all of that. A lot of Black people have eczema issues because we're struggling up here. Right. And what happens is I learned how to watch and view death or people really mangled and things like that. I became numb to it in a certain extent. Right. And or I never learned how to process any of that. And I knew how to carry it, right? And what I learned was, well, all right, well, either you deal with it or it's gonna deal with you.
Right.
And that's how I started dealing. It comes even that I can look like an alien if I'm in the wrong situation. You know what I mean? But that's what it was like to grow up. I was scared, I was unstable, structurally, emotionally. I wanted to be my father. I hated my father. You know, my parents really came through hard times. And what I learned later, my father would teach me is, listen, it's not like we can turn all that stuff off.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm out here, I'm running around. My father at a young age would constantly remind me, and I was the only one. I'm talking about young, I was like a teenager, but warn me and prepare me for his imminent death or murder. If I get killed, this is what I want you to do. And he wouldn't say get killed. He said, if I'm not here anymore. And I'm like, why don't you tell that to my older brothers, right? And then I began to see, he saw me a certain way.
Right.
That's heavy.
That is heavy.
That's heavy. Man.
All of these traumas, right? Because as a little boy, I'm scared. Now, I'm frightened now. I'm frightened of you, and I'm frightened that I might lose you.
Yeah.
And I remember the day my father walked out of the house, right? Because it's the same feeling. Right? You have to understand, it was a feeling. I identify sometimes memories with a feeling. Right? In my dreams, right? I can have a dream and I'm like, what the hell? But the feeling, and then it remind me of what's going on.
Yeah.
But my father, parents got into it for the 1,000th time. My mom was drunk. My father was out. I was a little boy. My older brothers, or at least Al Hodge was in the house at the time, and he wasn't. He didn't care what was going on. He was caught on TV or whatever. You have to understand, like, it really rocked my head. Like, my family was falling apart. I couldn't explain it. Like, I just really, like, was lost. I was hurting. I was crying. And my father bounced. And I'd probably say, like, 10, 15 minutes later, he called the house. My mom's picked it up. And he just wanted to talk to me. He just told me on the phone, I'll be there in the morning. And you have to understand, like, oh, man, like, it was like such a feeling of relief. And my mom was like, don't worry about it. She was a little intoxicated. Don't worry about it. You know, we'll find a little room someplace. Because, we're going to lose the house. My father's the breadwinner.
Right.
And, those kinds of things, man. So that's like, I can tell you 1,000 stories, but that's my childhood. It's good and bad. Like, you know what I mean? Because we throw the big parties in Harlem for all the kids to go eat free hot dogs and everything. And or we throw the big barbecues at the house. Everybody come in and all the family reunions were done there at least for a while. And you go from that to this. So I get older, I become angry. I internalize all of that.
Right.
My mom would tell you before she passed away, like, everyone thinks my oldest brother, and he is, whatever, but, or was, before he got incarcerated. But I really, in a lot of ways, possess the spirit, even more so, of James Payne and/or that anger. And Bernie's Payne. Bernie's Payne was nothing to play with. She was nothing to play with. And so my mom was really concerned about me because when I go, like, it had come a point. I became so angry. I'm not even trying to romanticize none of this.
Right.
I think, and I often say, let me just say, the fact that I was able to make it through the little bit of experiences I had in the street and be where I'm at right now is all a testament to God.
Right.
Like, because I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm not even trying to make it like I'm a big bad dude. And where I'm from, if you get caught with a gun, you're doing 4 years, yo. You know what I'm saying? Forget using it and all of that. You know what I'm saying? And, you saw my man from the Giants. He shot himself and went to prison for 2, 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's that real there. And we still running around with guns.
Yeah.
Still running around with shotguns, everything. And the fact is crazy, and as angry as I was, and as often as I did carry, not trying to create the false impression, but wow. And then to see my friends all around me, simple things were taking them out, to be honest with you, like putting them in jail or getting them violated, or same thing with my friends or my family. So to see how simple things were taken out, at least most people around me, or what I would consider to be simple things, or more minor things, and for me to kind of get around all of that was I can only give that to him. But the anger became a form of coping. And I would say high school. I'd probably say 16, 17 is like when I'm really beginning to have some dangerous thoughts.
Right. So let me jump in there and ask you something. So, you now being a professional psychologist and looking back and seeing and reliving, the impact of like your father and his vicissitudes going up and down, and you didn't mention it. I don't know if your father ever did a bid while you were younger or not. But how do you navigate that? As a young man, how do you navigate those challenges there, right, with your own particular family situation, right, and all of the trauma and the challenges, and then look at it from a professional lens. It's like seeing these young people now. This is mass incarceration America. Millions of black and brown men going to prison. We back now. We making movies about it, and we apologize and American made about how cocaine was dropped off in the communities, and and all of these people were taken out of their children's lives, right? And the damage that it has done to our community, man. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. So I it's a lot. Everything that you said right there. I just images run through my head. So I would say a lot has happened, right? So when I got older, right, with my father's never did a major bit, in and out of jail. Definitely seen him get arrested a ton of times. I think due to my father's situation, jail, was something he was able to minimize, in terms of getting caught up in. I will say my mom's was under federal investigation right before she died, which was interesting because they have to present the paperwork to you to see your mom's name and certain workers. And I couldn't imagine her going to prison. I mean, I think she could survive and all that, but it would just be hard for me to deal with that and process it. But so my father, nonetheless, was on the outside, at least for the most part. He was part of my life. My parents were married. It was a rocky relationship, but they were married. They did really love one another. I will say that. I think everything that you say, though, mass incarceration in America is by design. And the turmoil that all that creates, that institution, but other institutions creates with regard to not only communities, but families is, I think pretty amazing, right? In a very provocative and profound way. But the first thing that it does is this. So keep in mind, as a little kid, I still had a lot of the problems though associated with the streets and poverty. It's not, and I became angry and I internalized the anger. Like you have to understand, like I'm in sync, or becoming more in sync with this notion of violence, particularly as a coping mechanism. I really believed at that time that it was okay to handle your problems in that way. And I, to some extent, particularly if you're defending yourself, still believe that. But I still believe that more in the street identified way. And became angry at my family, my friends, my parents in particular. But it's not until I get older and I mature, right, that I can understand my father.
Right.
But it's going to take some time for me. As a psychologist, you learn, you're not going to come into your full mind to at least in your 40s. And I would say you're in a constant state of growing and coming into your mind because you're always going to learn new things, right? And if that's true, that means I'm now just coming into my full mind, right? But I began to realize in my 30s that, and probably a little before then, but definitely I need to look at this a little bit different. My father isn't unique. A lot of motherfuckers running around, excuse me, I don't know my curse, but there's a lot of people running around Harlem, meaning black men, right? And their sons or daughters, and they're going through the same problem, right? And as a developing researcher now, which is helping me think about this, I began to put two and two together. If it's not unique to me and this is more systematic, right? Then hold on. Now, James Payne may be acting crazy every now and again. I know he loves me though. Right. And I have to honor that. You know what I'm saying? He's trying. This dude was in 8th grade and he's been on his own. You know what I'm saying? And he may, like he used to say when I got older, right, I may not be a diplomat. I may not have the right words. I may not even know what to say some of the time. I ain't go to school like you. You know what I'm saying? But you got to cut me some slack. I mean, Jesus. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to walk on water all the time. I mean, look at where I come from and what I do. And you want me to have no problems and no hangups, which is an unfair expectation. Right. You know what I'm saying? But it took me some time to get there. Right.
I think it take a lot of people time to get there. Not to cut in, but
you got it, bro.
when we young, when we look at our dads are first superheroes. They wear the cape no matter what, good, bad, or indifferent. It's like this is the guy who I'm gonna grow up to be. Yeah. And I think to your point, as you get older and start to mature, and myself with having kids myself, and just the challenges of being a man, it's like you do got to cut that person some slack because superhero aside, like they still human and they're they subject to the trials and tribulations of life just like we are, So I think that's a good point that you made.
My father said this to me once. I'm an adult now, and when he said it, meaning, I know we raise, you come up, you think your mother and your father and your brothers are all special and perfect. Everybody thinks it about their families. You love your mother, you love me, we can do no wrong. It's like that superhero notion. Mm-hmm. So I just want you to know, though, although we are special and all that, your mother and your father is just like everybody else in this world, You know what I mean? And I know, you want to think like your mother can do no wrong or your father can do no wrong, but we are of this world, the good and bad of the world. And he wanted me to cut him some slack, but he also wanted me to understand him.
Yeah. Right. That's important.
Yeah.
That's important.
In a more deep way. So yeah.
So how do coming from these sort of backgrounds with different challenges, I think about this a lot with Amar, with my own son, and how, the decisions that I made. I was like for 14 years, incarcerated, lived a very violent lifestyle prior to going to prison. I can identify with a lot of things that you talked about from my own perspective, and not my father. My father, you know, he was a working guy, and to my knowledge, never was involved in the streets. But when I look at him more, and it's like I see the way he's turning out. You know what I mean? He's coming into himself. You know what I mean? Being a young man, 26 going on 27 years old, right? And I say, damn, you know what I mean? He's doing good. You know what I mean? By all comparisons. But then I got friends and different ones, you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? You are successful, you know, and doing well for yourself, I would say. But it don't always happen like that. I mean, what's that thing? What's that thing? What's that sweet spot where, you know what I mean, you can find it like with a young man, particularly young men, right? And their fathers either being in their lives or not being in their lives. What's that spot that you know what I mean, kind of that crossroads where an individual, you know what I mean, either goes to the left and falls off or falls into the street life and a life of crime or other forms of living death, you know what I mean, if you will, just not fulfilling their, you know what I mean, expectations of having some type of success, whatever that might be. And then the ones who do well, you know what I mean, by well, I don't mean wealth, I mean just live a relatively balanced and adjusted life. I mean, what's the thing? How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, for me, so that's, you know, $64 billion question, and you know, we'll still be answering that for lifetimes to come. But I'll be honest with you, Coley, I think the most, you know, simple acts of love go the longest way in getting someone to see the larger picture or making that change. And you know, I think there are a number of examples of it, but let me just talk about it in this way. For me, after I graduated high school, although I always did well in high school, I still felt lucky. I still was kind of shocked and surprised that I graduated. It was just a weird feeling. But I got through. I knew I was going to college, right? And I remember making a deal with God one night. I had my little conversation with him. I said, I'm going to try really hard to do this college thing because ain't nobody paying for it and no one really know how to get in. And I did. Everything was so confusing for everybody, let alone me. So for me to stay here, I'm going to do my best. But if it don't work out, and this is what I'm saying in my prayer or whatever to God, I'm going to do what I got to do to survive. But I am going to try. Now, I did try and it did work out. Did a couple things in the middle and all of that. You know, but
that's real though.
I did.
That's real.
I didn't go completely off the cliff. You know what I'm saying? Even though, you know, almost did or, you know, or whatever. But, you know, and I just felt like, you know, God did keep his word. You know, as long as I tried, he responded. But more importantly, what I began to learn, particularly during my college days, was the thing that really I was always looking for and I never found. But it's all good though, you know. And to me, that had the greatest shot at changing someone in the streets was just like the big brother, little brother model, right? So I always was looking for someone to mentor me or lead me. But I ain't the easiest person to mentor or lead. You got to really be on your A game. Right. Because I'm going to be on my A game as a mentee and I'm, you know, self-determined and inspiring. And I want to do this and I want to do that. But I was always looking for the right person to follow. And where I grew up at, like it's kind of here, and especially at that time, that was different. Being part of gangs and all of that, that wasn't, you wouldn't get your stripes like, not like a national gang. You're a crew, call it whatever, but say I'm going to be a blood or whatever the big name is. So I wasn't going to just follow someone like that. You didn't get any respect like that anyway. You kind of have to be your own boss. But if you're in this area, you know what the mentorship is like. I wanted someone to lead me like around life. Right. It could be from the streets or not or whatever, but I was always thinking about like someone that can help me figure things out, you know, i.e. a father. I didn't have a relationship with him at that time. Plus my father, right, you have to understand, by the time I'm in like 8th grade, probably before then, I've outpaced my entire house in terms of school. No one can literally help me. No one ever sat me down and was like, let me help you write a paper or check your homework. Not that they didn't know. They wanted me to do all of that. But literally, my parents, I know it has more than a high school education, and I'm learning all these new science terms and new math and, you know, geometry and algebra 2 trig, which they don't know. My father tells the whole house one night, I want everyone in here to leave him alone when it comes to schoolwork. Because all you're going to do is mess him up, right? And that's one good, thank you, Dad, you really believe in me, but I'm on my own now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that always was my model. And when my doctoral advisor heard, you know, in my 4th year, we were in California giving a talk out there late one night, me and her going through it. And she wanted to know why I wouldn't let her in more to help me figure things out. And I didn't know I was being resistant.
Right.
But I never knew no other way to learn but teach myself.
Teach yourself.
And she had informed me for the first time. I don't know no doctoral student in America, is what she said, who never, like, what do you mean? We've gotten tutors before, like at some point, you know what I mean? Or we've, you know, gotten help along the way. I ain't none of that. I literally told myself to read and write and everything else. That didn't mean I didn't have no special tutors, but it didn't mean I didn't go after class but I didn't come home and have a learning environment where someone sat me down and told me how to do it. That never happened for any assignment. Ever. But at that time, it's normal. I don't even know it's a problem.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So I became this person that became so into, I'm going to figure it all out, which is dangerous. My white Jewish doctoral advisor, who I'm still close with, also said, you know, Black people are the only people that I know, particularly professional Black people, you know, that's around her, that tries to do everything by themselves. Nobody else operates that way. That's true. So white Jewish professionals do not know it. It don't mean they ain't individually working hard.
Right.
That is true. But at the end of the day, they also rely on each other or a network.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And we're competing, we're divided against one another. Everything is going on. So we're all trying to figure it out. And that's dangerous. I was looking for the one person, still looking, right? Well, you know, and it's cool. But I realized in now working with people from the streets, people in my community, I don't have $1 million. I wish I did, man. I tell you, Amar, right now, if I can give every one of the street par members $1 million plus, I would. I'm working towards that. I don't know if that's going to happen. But my point is, in my mind, my fantasy, I want to, like, you know, for me, I want people to be good. You know what I mean? And I realize the challenge that's really before us. We're going to need resources. We're going to need this. And all this shit is by design, structural violence and everything.
Yeah.
Everything that they've been through, you know what I'm saying, has been socially engineered, in fact, by greater powers or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Structural racism, it's been engineered to be born out in this way. So in the meantime, in between time, what is the best thing that we can do? And I learned during my college days, you know, I started working, you know, I didn't call the street part of it. I always had a knack of organizing dudes in the street. I've always have. Socially or professionally. But I always was like an alpha, okay. Always was popular, you know, it don't mean that I still got made fun of and all of that. That happened too. You know, but my point is you knew who I was, whether you liked me or didn't like me. You know what I mean?
Right.
That kind of, or my family or something like that. Right. So my thing is using that social capital is what we always talking about. Okay, use your social capital. And I knew certain dudes wanted to be around me at certain times. And you could do a lot with that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I got my first little brother. This is Big Brother, Little Brother program now. Farris Scott. Him and his wife just visited me this past summer. I met Farris when he was 13 years old in Staten Island. This is Wu-Tang 1990s. Oh, crazy. You know what I'm saying? I used to go down in their projects. It was wild. It was wild. But, you know, I was just hanging out. I seen Raekwon and them. They do Wu Day. They do it in the projects, though, Park Hill. So I went down there, me and my friends one time. And I was going to college in Staten Island. But I called my friends up from back home. We went down there in the projects.
Okay.
I remember seeing Meth and Raekwon and all of them. This dude, big dude, he was acting crazy, you know, and beating up kids and smacking them in the head, just doing all kind of crazy stuff. Raekwon's on stage performing, stopped the show, made his projects turn on that dude who's from the same projects in front of the police. And got it off. And no one got arrested. That is how hard they are in Staten Island, yo. Dude drenched in blood. Police walked, picked him up, escorted him out, and that was it, yo. That was in the middle of the show, yo. They were throwing bikes on him and everything. He was, you know, being that big bully kind of dude. And Raekwon was like, yo,
that's crazy.
Stop acting like that, yo. And then it was, you know what I mean? But, so I met Farris, Staten Island. He was a hot mess, fighting. The goal was to just get Farris to graduate high school. and we would think that was a major accomplishment. Right. His father wasn't there. He was just angry at the world. And, and we got him, we went through a whole bunch of stuff, you know what I mean? And did get him through college. Through high school. He did graduate a year or two late, but he got through, and, then eventually went to college. Okay. Then eventually turned to the church. Then eventually, I think he went to go get his master's. Then he got married, just had a son 2-3 years ago. Nice. Now he's in the Air Force and he's, lives in North Carolina. I drove him down to North Carolina to go to college. I remember as soon as we stepped off the bus, I went to the bathroom and the police locked him up. That was his introduction to North Carolina.
What they lock him up for?
Just they thought he was bringing drugs. Anyway, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And they let him go. It just looked like he, I don't know. It's like that. That cloud surrounds him. Ooh. You know what I'm saying? So he's doing great now. But one of the things we realized is we won a major award. Central Park is on TV, like ABC News in New York and all that. And I forget the name of the pizza joint. It's a popular pizza franchise. But they work with Catholic Big Brother, Little Brother, and they gave us a big award. Because we've been with each other since he was 13. Mm-hmm. He's 31 now.
Oh, so they didn't give Big Brother, Little Brother, Big Brother the award. They gave you and Ferris the award.
Yeah, but they were awarding a Big Brother, Little Brother from the Catholic Big Brother, Little Brother.
Okay.
So they award like someone, I guess, once a year.
Okay.
Like the major award, like who, and the fact that we've hung out with one another so long, they just thought that was amazing. I bring amazing. That story up to only say this: that Ferris, what did he need, right? So he's doing his thing now, doing his thing. What Ferris needed was just somebody to be there with him every day. Just keep your word, yo. You ain't got to give me $1 million. You take $1 million or you take this and take that if it was there. But the fact that I called him, the fact that I showed up, the fact that I cared, the fact and for someone like that who was angry, and I identified, I understand how angry he was. And I didn't have nobody ever to go to like that. You know what I'm saying? And I realized how a simple act of love can be life-changing. And then right after that, that's when I started doing more programs. So I was doing street outreach. Started organizing dudes and running the projects in Staten Island to do street outreach around HIV and AIDS. Whatever I get money for. It didn't even matter necessarily the topic. That was important. Violence, HIV and AIDS. The fact that it was cooperative and we were there together. And just I realized the fact that I just gave a shit was enough for some brothers who's running around here hustling to be like, hold on, first it's real, because we even heard that 1,000. And if you really do just give a fuck, you don't even have to have $1 million. That it was enough to bring out a critical mass of dudes. Right. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't trying to, get no money off nobody. I'm trying to do good. I'm also trying to keep the flavor too. Right. You know what I mean? I don't want to, make this so boring or church. There ain't nothing wrong with none of that. I'm just saying, it doesn't have to always be like that.
It'll turn people off. It'll turn people off fast.
So how we gonna make it hot? How we gonna make it fresh? What my white Jewish doctor advisors say, y'all, meaning Street Park, y'all make learning cool. And for her, that's one of the best values and characteristics of this. Right. Because once we get on our feet like we really need to, it'd be easy to sell the idea to the community. You know what I'm saying? And other people too, for that matter. But I don't mean financially sell. I mean, really put them on, like, listen, this is what we're doing, and this is what you can do where you at with it. You know what I mean? But my point is, simple act of love. Just being there, just being a big homie to a little homie. I see that with my brothers and them in New York, right? Little dudes always, or younger guys always want to be around them. Just stand next to them. You know what I mean? And the OG hustlers and all of that, like me and Wolf be joking and all. Like, what we do? We like, yo, go stand over there, yo. That is how they are in New York too. They'd be like, yo, go sit over there, yo. Stand next to me. And I get it within that context. But even if I was in that context, I mean, to me at least, I might be at least periodically strategic to really build off of that. That dude he just looking for a father. He just looking for approval. I mean, these are all things I was looking for. Right. You know what I'm saying? I just, I wanted someone, I don't even need you to do nothing. I was highly motivated. Just give a fuck. And then I'm going to do the rest. But the fact that you care would mean so much to me because I'm struggling for that. At least people love me. Don't get it twisted. People will do anything for me, in terms of my family and my friends. But my point is, things were so hectic and stressful. It was hard for people to be present. Yeah. They physically are present, right, but consciously and really be there and and understand what you're going. So I'm going to school and I'm seeing X, Y, and Z happening. I'm going through all kinds of shit in school. My parents don't even realize, like, because they're not present.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then I can't talk to them. Like, another thing I struggle with, you know, that I started teaching younger people, particularly when I was in New York, and doing stuff around public health and HIV and AIDS. Like, my parents never spoke to me. My father, no one ever talked to me about, like, sex. Right? I think my father, the only thing he ever said to me was, if you have any questions, you can ask me. That was the beginning and ending of our conversation on sex. And what happens is after that, and I know I could have asked him, but I didn't know what to ask. Right. And now I go out and I make a bunch of mistakes. I mean, you know, in terms of relationships, in terms of what it is to be a man. My mom used to tell me it's okay for me to sleep around, right? Or womanize, you know, and that's how you find your love. And I know my mom was trying to be, you know what I mean? I get it all, right? But what I need somebody, so I don't necessarily think all that was the best advice.
Right.
But what I was looking for was someone then to sit me down. And not that you got to be perfect, but the simple things in life too, like, you know, relationship. How do you treat a woman? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so now it's just me and my friends and we figuring it out and we, you know what I mean? And then, like, I remember as little kids in Harlem running around, like, we was a wild bunch, man. I mean, I thought I was good, but my friends were, wild, out of control, little kids. Just getting into trouble, baby kind of stuff, yo. You know what I'm saying? And I remember, you know what I mean? Even the way, you know, little boys would sometimes be rough with little girls and I'm not even, nobody was trying to do anything nefarious, but to me, in retrospect, there's no guidance. Nobody's there to talk to us about anything. We just trying to figure out how to do all of this. You know what I'm saying? In the middle, and then, you know what I mean? And in between all of that, then you start engaging in some behavior that's just really out of control. And it's just like, so my point is, simple acts of love, guidance, somebody just there for you. Somebody you can just knock on the door, a mentor, whatever you want to call him, and just, hey, let me just bounce something off for you. You know what I'm saying? And the craziest thing is, I'll be honest with you, man, the first time that I got that, was like on some street stuff, which is not the best place, right? So I did find an OG, you know, remain nameless. I could be like, okay, let me check in with him before I make my little decision to do whatever. Right. I just want, like to bounce that off. You help me think some stuff through and okay, and am I bugging and do it, and and that's cool, whatever. But my point is I needed that for the other part of my life.
Right.
And that would have totally helped me deal with my anger and think about things differently. So,
I mean that's a wealth of things, man. As you talk, as you talk, and as I listen, some of the things that you mentioned is it being very important to you to get back, and then also the thing that you mentioned about just doing for self and learning on your own and things of the sort. I think a vein runs through from how you speak about your parents and your family giving back to the community with the turkeys and the gifts and the things. And you said your dad has an 8th grade education, but he still managed to build all of these businesses and see various levels of success. And for all intents and purposes, operate his household to the best of his ability and things like that, man. So I think a lot of this stuff is, we always talk about nature versus nurture, right? And I think it's a combination of both, but I think some of that stuff is just in us. Me and my dad, when we go out on our walks, and for everybody listening, Coley is my dad, he's my biological father. I'm
sorry, why do you have to say that?
For two parts, because some of the people that are listening won't know.
Right.
Won't know. And then people do ask us, like a lot of times when we do Out of the Ashes.
Oh, really? They do? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the time. And for everybody listening, Out of the Ashes is a play that we put together, speaking on the different challenges that me and my father faced and how we were able to bring things together and project hope out to the audience. During the Q&A session that follows directly after, the kids will ask, is that your biological dad? And they won't say biological. They'll say, is that your real dad? Yeah. Are you really, is that your dad? Did that really happen? Some kids even ask me, are you the dad?
Oh, let's go.
Which is hilarious.
But,
right. I say all that to say, like, being away from my pop for 14 years, there were still things that I had from him without being around him, and it's eerie, man.
Yeah.
With him coming home, like we talk about business a lot, and just hearing about his different endeavors, and then hearing about how I look at things and how I appreciate business. It's like, man, this was in me all along, even without seeing him operate on a day-to-day basis. So,
And it makes me think about it. So what about the hidden jewels that's in these kids, right? But they don't have that, get that point of context. I mean, for all things considered, you know, I mean, we're moving along pretty well. 14 years, that's a big hump, right?
yeah.
But we back and we got something, and we building off of something. And it's like, I don't know, it just makes me think, and it makes me sad to think about kids who have that thing inside of them, but nobody's there. You know what I mean? Nobody's there to bring it out of them. You know? Yeah.
And everybody's watching y'all. Keep that in mind. And I began to realize that with me, you know. But, you know, I don't have any children. My point is, so other fathers and other sons, and I'm not just saying during your presentations, you know, so meaning the idea of you is in the minds of so many people in Wilmington, particularly those who are struggling with what you're going through, right? And so it reminds me, in a lot of ways, y'all remind me of the Locks, right? The Locks, they don't have you know, Jay-Z commercial status like that. But one of the things, at least in New York, that they love about the Locks, I think wider gangster rap industry or whatever, what they represent is loyalty and commitment to one another.
Absolutely.
Right? And a lot of people don't pride that or talk about that you know, as much in their music, or you may not make any money from loyalty and being committed to one another, right? In and of itself. But from a lot of rappers looking at, they tell Jay, listen, they all mean so much to us. The fact that y'all just together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Got us like, yo, maybe ain't too many rap groups can do what you're doing, but it's like, at least we got one example, and you give us so much hope. You know what I mean? And with regard to the social crisis that we're having with Black fathers and Black sons, you know, in a place like Wilmington, y'all give so much people hope, you know, with regard to repairing and restoring, you know, a lot of relationships, man. So it wasn't until I got older, my father pointed out to me, you know, I personalized everything, but damn, a lot of fathers, I let me know, a lot of Black fathers is going through what we going through, but with their own sons. You know what I mean? This is bigger than me and you. Then somehow you heard the song about Beanie Siegel, about his father, right? Maybe he was in my car and I was playing it or something, you know. And Tupac has a song about his father. Jay-Z, right, did the remix with Beanie, right? So about 4 or 5 songs that are angry songs, like bone-chilling songs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And my father started listening to that, you know, and, you know, hit him a little way, and he started questioning me, and he wondered what my brothers think about him. My father do realize he's halfway crazy too, you know, and he realizes that the young generation is angry with their fathers, and there's a split between fathers and sons. But in any event, even though that is an issue in our communities, you two, right, you know, represent relatively a handful of folk who are out here who are really showing, no, look at how powerful our relationship is. That's what I'm saying. And it's so much inspiration, man. Like, for real. Yeah.
That was the goal. When we set out to do Out of the Ashes, we saw that what we have is common with some, but is very uncommon with other people that are close to us. And that's what we wanted to do. We just wanted to be able to show that we were able to build from that. Hip hop is like a manual for life. It's like a manual for life. People who have that manual longer tend to do better. The proof is in the pudding. And when you don't have the manual and you see your peer or your classmate and they come to school or they go to basketball practice or football practice and they got that manual, your dad on the sidelines or at home helping you, and they're getting further in school, they're doing better, they can shoot the basketball better, they can tackle better, and you might be struggling in these aspects that you got an appreciation for as a child, that can make you angry.
Yeah.
And draw a lot of confusion. That's what, for me, it was more so confusion. I didn't really experience the anger, but I was confused. I just didn't understand. It's like, why me? Why me? I could go and run sprints with my neighbor and his dad, and then I come home and it's me, my grandpa, and my grandma. It's kind of like, why me? I want to be fast. I want to be able to tackle those different things, man. Your dad is that operating manual, man.
Yeah. My father also helped me. I began to realize that my father helped me to realize, so let me say it that way. He didn't help me to realize that issues around confidence, you know what I'm saying, being competent, being, just feeling secure in myself. Like, as a young boy, as an emerging man. And I would tell my father when I got older, I would learn later, approval is necessary. Because they make it seem like, my father would say some crazy stuff like, you don't need no, I'm like, Dad, and you don't need nobody to do it on your own. You don't need anybody. He would say what I would at that time, and I still think are just a really bad way of understanding social behavior. But you don't care about what nobody else thinks, your father or anybody else. You just need you. And he would say things like that. But I helped my father to eventually realize, listen, dude, approval is biological. That there's a drive, and it has to be fed and centered.
Yes.
And if it isn't centered by your parents or your immediate family, the drive is so genetic and biological, you're going to find someplace else to settle that need or desire for approval. My father really didn't understand that. He felt like you could figure it out, so letting people control your mind. And no, I need you to say, my father did, would eventually begin to say that he loved me, which was big too.
That was big for me too.
It was big because he's not like that.
My dad wasn't either. Isn't.
When you hear your pops say that they love you for the first time, who never regularly say that shit, so it still hits me.
Yeah.
But my father learned. So I ain't gonna front. My father is not a big talker. He is aggressive. But out of his 4 sons, I'm the only one that he struggled with and tried to get to know and figure out and talk with for hours. I'm probably the closest person to him in his life.
Yeah.
One he'll sit around with for hours and watch news. He doesn't watch a whole lot of TV, but he'll do news and stuff like that. Debate, figure out politicians, argue with me. You know what I'm saying? And my mom's eventually pointed that out to me. My father's an introvert. He's angry. He's a good dude. You know what I'm saying? But he's not he doesn't also have those kind of the talking skills like that. But with me, because I was persistent. Hey, Dad, I'm coming over Sunday. We're going to watch something together. He watched sports. He likes basketball and stuff like that. We're going to do something. And it was uncomfortable for him at first with me because I could feel it. This is in my early 20s. I'm coming back now. I forged a relationship with him on a personal level. And I was like, come on, Dad, I'm coming. He don't know really what to say and none of that. And, okay, we're going to take it one conversation, one sentence at a time. Then eventually started getting in the rhythm, yo. And, I wouldn't say he opened up to a whole bunch of other people. Not to say he wouldn't talk, but I'm the dude that can come there and be like, yo, we're going to talk. And I loved his mind. I thought, to me, my father's the smartest person on the planet. In fact, that he 8th grade and he got kicked out and he did all of that from Alabama. Like, damn, dude. And then my father was born in 1938 at the, in the middle of Jim Crow era. And he's in Alabama too.
Right.
Part of the reason why he gets kicked out, probably he was running his mouth with his father at that time in our country and in Black America. It didn't matter how old you were as a child. You'd be 9 years old and get kicked out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I guess that happens now, but it really happened then.
Yeah.
Plus, there wasn't a lot of food, and they were really poor, and they lived in a shack, and
yeah.
So many kids. It's like I think I had like 9 brothers and sisters, and I think my grandfather had another family. It was a lot going on. So young kids with my father's the second oldest. His older brother left at 13. He leaves at 13, and so it's part of the reason why he leaves is because my father's running his mouth. They don't like the way white people treat Black people, and they also got to get him out of Alabama, or at least that section of Alabama.
Right.
Because they will make an example out of it. But I love my pops, man. I just feel like, to be honest with you, my father never had a shot at being the father that he wanted to be. He was always scrambling around and trying to put it together and trying to hold it down for the family. He loved his family. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't realize that until I got older, that he really, my father wanted, you have to understand, everything that I'm doing now in my life, street par, that's my father. I wanted to be him. So you have to understand, I'm sitting around my father and I'm really figuring out. And I like the way his mind worked. My mind is probably most closest to him. My anger is also probably most closest to out of the brothers. Listen, and my older brothers, they ain't nothing to play with. But I'm explosive. And it's really this experience, me and UD and, the academy and school and all that. it took all that rage and it disciplined it, in a way that my brothers didn't have an opportunity to do it. But my idea for doing what I'm doing now, in essence, comes from my father. Because everything that I want, my father is the one that sat around and debated all night. Black issues and poverty and capitalism. Watch the news, tell me, all those white folk on TV are lying and this, that, and the third. Like, yeah, and he helped me see the game, and then I would learn it. That he, do what he do, because I'll be in the store and the Time Mafia show up, and I see how my father talk to these dudes that he ultimately worked for. I mean, I guess he's more like a consultant or a contractor, but my point is, he still worked for them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And gangster with them. My father always had a team and a crew, and this is Harlem. Y'all not from here.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, y'all still control the purse strings. But my point is, they would hit the block, pick up their money and stuff. It wasn't doing, But my point is, people on the block or near the, with my father, they would act a little frightened and scared. Just seeing you these particular white people come through. My father never showed fear like that. My father's best friend said, I don't think he was afraid of anybody in Harlem. I never seen him. Like, there was never a fight or situation. The biggest thing that came up, and my parents have passed away. That's why I kind of talk about this stuff more openly now. What's my man's name? Everybody's talk a lot about Preacher.
Oh yeah.
You have to understand, like, my father was alive, and you would hear him talk about Preacher. Now, turn on TV, Black Preacher, all kinds of stories, documentaries, and he was that. It was nothing to someone like my father. My father kept trying to create a situation with him, right? When he finally, when in his mind, he interpreted that he was violating, extorting some dudes, and he thought my father's thought he made a mistake, basically. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Then he walked away when he realized he made a mistake. But he was into extorting people, Preacher. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't want to make that mistake with my father. And I'm not, and I guess, I'm not going to act like one is tougher than the other. What it is, I think, at the end of the day, they realize that both will go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Until one is, and so if you're not really trying to lose everything, because both people are going to lose everything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Then you step away. Yeah, let's say my father come from a culture in Alabama where they would tie their arm and behind the back, right? And each person ties their arm behind the back, and each person has a knife. And matter of fact, you tie yourself to the other person somehow. I don't know how they do it. You have a knife in the other hand, and y'all stab each other to death. Right, and whoever goes down first, loses. And so in my class at the University of Delaware, we read stories from the Deep South where I want people to realize this stuff is real. This is a real practice. My father comes from that, where that happened all the time in his neighborhood. So his mentality does not change. You know what I'm saying? When he gets to Harlem, what was his first street name? Shotty or Shotgun, something like that. I guess he gets to Harlem like in the 50s or somewhere around there. And he shoots the block up when he comes home one night. And I guess people start saying certain things. And he's like, what? And he ain't the most politically correct person. So he gets that nickname at that time. But my point is, you have people who are coming from such social structural trauma that the way that they cope in certain environments, you know what I'm saying, at least to me and some other, is extreme. But for my father, this was how things were. So my father wanted me to understand him from that perspective. Like, listen, I know I'm rough around the edges, what he used to say to me. I know I'm not a diplomat. Can't put all my words together right. He would say stuff like that. But I just want you to know that I care. And it's really through that space that I began to recognize, no, Pop Duke's not only care, he is the smartest person that I know on earth. And I began to really understand what he was trying to say. He began to teach me about structural inequality, structural violence. He always told me, Yasser, let me tell you something, particularly as I got older and I started doing public speaking in New York. I get, some big crowds, and I got invited to Hot 97 once, Lisa Evers' show, which is called Street Soldiers. It was big at that time.
Nice.
And I was like doing my thing out there, and he was like, listen, let me tell you something, Yas. Now he's getting scared for me as things start to bubble.
Yeah.
Listen. He wasn't scared for me the street stuff, but right, which is interesting. He's scared for me when I'm in this zone. That's around.
That's a lot.
Power.
He does.
They will kill you if you keep talking about feeding people. Right? And that's how we start to learn. They don't give a shit about feeding everybody. You think they don't know these damn hoods is poor and broke? You think they don't know that reentry is tough? You think they don't know that most of the black men here ain't got no goddamn jobs? Right? He wants me to wake up. Like you, like wake up, yo. You think they don't know this shit? You think it's doing it? That's what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? You think you figured that out? Oh, you think you just gonna work hard? These niggas are gonna work hard and then all of a sudden they're gonna get out. Ain't too many of them gonna meet no Michelle Fine, my white Jewish doctor advisor who I'm so close with. Her 40th anniversary is today. I'm supposed to be there, but I said, one of the things that we gotta do besides our meeting this morning was I gotta do the show. But
we appreciate that.
We appreciate that. It's all good. And so he began to wake me up. Like, cause he's ran around, he's a bodyguard for Malcolm X, and he's around a lot of black revolutionary movements and groups.
You just kind of tossed that in there like that's
yeah, my father was very close with Malcolm X's family, very close with his wife, Betty Shabazz. Also support her when Malcolm was out of town. My father owned stores then. He would make sure to give her food and things. They were struggling, he said. He also worked for his Malcolm X's sister, Ella Collins. Right? And we would go to her house when I was a little kid before she passed away. I think she passed away in the 90s. Don't give me the line. She was gangster. Like Malcolm was gangster. Okay, she was 13 times more gangster. And she had dudes like my father work for her and do all kinds of crazy stuff. My father would tell me some very interesting stories. Very well respected also in the black revolutionary movement, meaning Malcolm's sister. But she was also very respected in the streets too. And their family's going back and forth from Harlem to Boston. But he was more like a bodyguard. He was there when Malcolm got killed. Malcolm didn't want any bodyguards there, interestingly enough. But a number of them were still, he just hung around. He had pushed everyone away. And as a lot of us say in Harlem, Malcolm and Martin, but Malcolm wanted to die. I mean, Jesus Christ, you did everything almost to ensure it. Maybe because he was tired of running, everyone threats, whatever it was. But all of those experiences, his lessons from the days of Malcolm, his conversations with me about capitalism and inequality and its functionality, its necessity, and how he just wanted me to wake up. Like, yo, like, what do you think is going on? And not that you don't fight this fight, but at least fight it knowing, being armed with the knowledge. So through all those experiences, I realized my father would love to do what I am doing.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? He would love to go back and get an education, to do analysis, to open and lead a community research program. He constantly read. Although he still had 8th grade education. You have to understand, I was born with my father when I was young. My father could not read or write well, and by the time I'm older, the dude was just constantly reading. You know what I'm saying? And he wanted to go back to college and school. He thought about it all the time. In fact, my situation with me even doing well in school, particularly in grad school now, it began to, in a weird kind of way, mess with him a little bit. Because he, everything that I had went through and I still got a PhD, in his mind, he felt like, well, if I really wanted a PhD or a college degree, I could have gotten it too. So now that he loved what I did, but it's kind of now putting that odds against us on the low. You know what I'm saying? And I let my father know, man, you how? 8th grade education, you running here, you got to be prepared for a moment like that. I mean, what are you talking about? Like, I know everything that it takes for you to be successful in college. Do you have the mind? Absolutely. At what point would it even been possible? Like, are you serious? Like, and not to say you still can't make it happen. Right. But dude, like, there's so many barriers put in place for you to get to where I'm at. And it's only because of you that I'm here. Also, my brother Cal, he made sure I'm there too. But it's only because of those two, literally, that I said, you didn't have what I have in you. You know what I mean? And now then I started working with my father to get his GED. And let's start doing it now. You know what I mean? And then it became difficult for him to work with me. The fact that the son was teaching the father. That's about 2-3 weeks. Let's just put this down, guys. Let's just put this down. I'll let you know when I'm ready. But my father helped me get to where I'm at, and I know, and he let me know that I am doing what he always wanted to do.
It's incredible, man. So, yeah, that's a lot. That was rich, man. So we want to thank you, man. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us, man. Just thank you for everything, man. Being able to definitely glean a lot from this conversation and just in general being around you. You know what I mean, and the work that you're doing in the community, man. So
I just want you to know real quick, man, Amar and Coley, and Amar in particular, let me tell you something about your pops. You know, I've been thinking about this for a while, you know, but I've always, like, keep in mind, I've always in my life wanted to be doing what I'm doing now, right? Thought about it in different ways, different words, different, you know, necessarily wasn't always calling it street part. Always wanted to work with a group of brothers who had a certain set of experiences, right? But to go back to the community to do God's work, right? But particularly in the streets or with that population. And coming where I came from, how I grew up. So I did the first street park project as my dissertation for all my friends. And we just went at it, right? And you have to understand, when I'm first starting out, I don't have a frame of reference. There's no study in the literature, like how to do this. Nobody's doing this. And it's just like, so the question, even from my doctoral advisors and everybody, it's like, yo, can this even be done?
Right.
You have to understand where street part was. Can it even be achieved? What most people are doing, right, particularly who do my kind of work, they're just doing qualitative and they're going out and they're meeting, you know, they're doing interviews and they're just snowball sampling. So, okay, I know these 5 guys, maybe these 5 guys can hook me up with these 5 guys. But the idea that they're going out to get 800 surveys or 500 surveys, nah. Right? So the big question was, could it even be done? And a lot of times, a lot of folk back in New York thought it was ambitious, even in the community, even some of the hustlers. You wildin', yo. I mean, I was insistent, right? I'm stubborn and I'm angry, you know. I'm going to all these different dope and coke spots, and we're gonna get the surveys popping. That's what we doing, you know. And they're like, all right. And mind you, I'm going out with dudes at that time were active,
right?
I think all 4 of them were active. Bloods, Crips, all that. I mean, 4, but you know, even when we hitting the block, they getting a little nervous. Like, first, I'm paying you. This is your block. You know, what's going on? You active. I'm in school. You know what I'm saying? But I began to understand. They needed me to model. They hustling on the block, but they never, you know, did a survey project or anything like that.
Okay.
They love everything that we talked about in the trainings and all of that, but this is the real thing. And not that anyone got so scary where we didn't do anything. Everything worked out. You know what I'm saying? But my point is, I realized, okay, we need a frame of reference. People have to see this modeled. Right, we're just at the stages of can we do it and or how do we do it, right? So what does Delaware offer me? It offered me a lot of confirmation that you had a critical mass of black men and women, you know what I'm saying, from the streets that were really down to do this shit and really be committed to it, you know what I'm saying, in a way that the community will receive it. So so Delaware is a blessing 30 times over for somebody like me, and definitely is ground zero for actualizing the idea of street park. And so I think we've created and organized such a groove where, again, I think we're numb to a lot of our achievements. We talked about this morning in the meeting. But where I'm from, I just gave a talk at my doctoral program a month ago, and I'm talking about this stuff in front of everybody. But where I'm from, like, the idea that we're doing all of it is like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Because as all of my professors back in the early 2000s says, we never thought you'll take it here. James Jones said this at the Center for Study, you know, in my presentation the other day at the University of Delaware. You know, James Jones, very famous social psychologist, and he knew me as a young doctoral student. And when I was spouting these ideas around street park, it was laughable in some respects. You know, at least, but not by me, by others. You know, it's too ambitious. Why do you really want to do that? And yada, yada, yada.
Really?
And so if you don't catch your mind, right, you can almost feel like, damn, maybe I'm bugging. You know what I'm saying? And I never, you know, I'm still stubborn, and I didn't know if it was going to work out or not. I knew I was going to keep trying until I figured something out. I didn't have to do first project, home run out the ballpark in terms of the group coming together and coalescing. And I realized then, simple acts of love.
Simple acts of love.
Just show up, be here on time. Let's do good work. Everything you say, you ain't got to be $1 million. You know what I'm saying? If you got it, great. But listen, let's go do the work, man. And your father and so many of us here in the community, you know, have helped, my dream, now our dream, really sincerely, authentically come true. And for that, I'm internally indebted to your pops, and the rest of the team as well. Because it's like, man, so you thank me, but no, bro, just keep this in mind. I definitely, I definitely appreciate you thanking me, but I also thank you from the bottom of my heart and the center of my spirit for everything that you've done for me. You know what I'm saying? And so many others in the community. You are, Wolfie, and a number of y'all are the kind of mentors. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I always say simple acts of love and just a mentor, just be there, and there are so many guys, and I'm sure you realize it, and maybe you don't realize, I just want to be around you. I see it. They whispered to me. They guys want to be around me too, but nah, you know what I'm saying? And as it should. And it's just like, so that's a special kind of power. And I just feel like, you've nurtured and you've harnessed that gift that God has given you. I mean, and just keep at it, man. Just keep at it. I know sometimes it feels thankless. But, so many people are watching you too, and everything else that we're doing, man. And even when we feel like no one cares and no one is watching, they paying attention, bro. For sure.
So with that, we're going to end this very first episode of Missing Dad. Again, we want to thank Dr. Payne, Yasser Payne, for coming out here.
Thank you.
And thank you, brother. We appreciate it.
For sure.